The Unexpected Encounter, Los Angeles. Sunset Boulevard glimmered in the dying light, golden and soft, casting long shadows across the city that never quite slept. It was the kind of evening that whispered stories, the kind that lingered just long, enough to make you believe in second chances. Keanu Reeves stood on the steps of the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, hands in his pockets, black suit unbuttoned, hair slightly tousled by the breeze. He had just stepped out of a charity gala, a quiet one by Hollywood standards, to get some air. He was never comfortable in crowds, even after decades in the spotlight. The attention, the questions, the flashbulbs. He needed a moment. As he walked across the courtyard toward the quieter end of the block, his eyes scanned the street, habitually, aimlessly, until they locked onto a figure sitting by a closed boutique. She was hunched over, wrapped in a worn gray coat, her hair a tangle of auburn curls spilling from under a woolen hat. A small plastic sign sat by her side. "Anything helps, God bless." Keanu slowed. Something stirred in his chest. He took another step and then froze. The eyes. Even from 20 feet away, he could see them. Hazel green. Time pulled back like a tide, dragging him with it. Years ago, Toronto, Canada, her name was Mary Ellis. She lived 3 blocks down from his mother's apartment. They met in high school. She was everything he wasn't. Loud, witty, with a laugh that made the coldest day feel like summer. Keanu had been the quiet one even then, always scribbling poems in the margins of his notebook or fixing his motorcycle. Mary had loved that bike, loved the way he listened, the way he never interrupted. They spent late nights sitting on the hood of his old Dodge Dart, watching the sky, talking about everything and nothing. They had dreams, both of them. She wanted to be a social worker, to change the system from the inside, she used to say. He wanted to act, though he was embarrassed to say it out loud then. She was the first person who said he could do it, and mean it. He left for Los Angeles at 21. She cried at the airport, held his face in her hands and whispered, "No matter what happens, don't forget me." He never did. Back to now, Keanu stepped closer, unsure if his mind was playing tricks. The woman looked up, slowly, cautiously. Her eyes met his, and in that instant, he knew. "Mary?" he asked, barely above a whisper. She squinted, unsure if she was hallucinating. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Her face had aged, softened, by hardship, but it was unmistakably her. She blinked as though trying to adjust her vision to something impossible. "Keanu?" Her voice cracked like dry leaves. "Keanu Reeves?" He dropped to one knee. "Mary, it's me." She laughed, a dry, hollow sound. "No, that's not real. You're not real. You can't be." "I am," he said, voice gentle. "It's me." Her hands trembled. She clutched her coat tighter around her. Please don't pretend." "I would never," he said. And then something strange happened. She started crying. Not tears of joy, not reunion, but deep, guttural sobs, like a dam had broken inside her. Her face collapsed into her hands. Keanu looked around. People walked, passed. Some glanced at them, curious. A few took out their phones. "Come with me," he said. "Just for a coffee. Or water. Anywhere you want." She shook her head violently. "I'm not who you think I am anymore." He sat down beside her on the pavement, cross-legged in his suit. "You're Mary Ellis, that's who you are. And that's enough for me." She looked at him, defeated and raw. He was still the boy she once knew. Just older, wiser, richer, but his eyes hadn't changed. He didn't see her as the world saw her now. He saw the girl who had believed in him before anyone else had. Inside the diner, she finally agreed. They walked to a small diner 2 blocks away. No paparazzi. Just a corner booth and the hum of late-night conversations. She drank her coffee with both hands still shaking. "I thought you were a hallucination," she said. I thought I'd never see you again. Mary stared out the window. You shouldn't have seen me like that. I'm glad I did. She gave him a look, half disbelief, half pain. You don't mean that. I do. If I hadn't gone to that gala, if I hadn't taken that walk, we wouldn't be here. She chuckled. You always believed in fate. No, he replied. I believed in you. Silence. Then she began to talk. What happened to Mary Ellis over the next hour? Mary told her story. After Keanu left for LA, she stayed in Toronto, put herself through university. She got her social work degree, worked with abused women, married a man who seemed kind at first until he wasn't. The violence was gradual, then unbearable. She fled with her daughter Lily. They lived in shelters. Then the car. Then nowhere. When Lily died of an undiagnosed infection at the age of 8, Mary unraveled. She drifted through cities, jobs, couches, until eventually there was no one left to call. Los Angeles was just another city. Another broken dream. She stopped believing in people. In herself. I didn't plan to survive this long, she said flatly. Keanu was silent. There were no words for the weight of a life lost in plain sight. I'm so sorry, he said. She nodded. You don't need to fix me. I don't want to fix you. I just want to be here, if that's okay. Tears welled in her eyes again, but this time they were different. Softer. Real. I don't know why you'd want to. Because I never stopped caring. Narrative begins. The morning sun poured over Los Angeles like honey, sticky and golden. The city came alive slowly, honking, horns, yawning storefronts, joggers clutching their water bottles as if they could outrun yesterday. But Keanu Reeves wasn't running. He was parked in front of a modest motel in Koreatown, coffee in hand, waiting. Waiting for a woman the world had forgotten but whom he never could, Mary Ellis. She hadn't come out yet, and maybe she wouldn't. Maybe she'd vanish just like she had 30 years ago. That thought stung more than he expected. He took a deep breath and leaned back in his seat, eyes closed. And the past came roaring back. 30 years earlier, Toronto, 1985. The winter air nipped at their noses as Keanu and Mary trudged down Yonge Street, bundled up in mismatched thrift shop coats. Snow fell lazily, blanketing the world in silence. Mary held his hand tightly, swinging their arms like children. She always walked like she had somewhere to be, even when they didn't. She had dreams, big ones. I'm going to run a shelter one day, she said. Not just hand out food, really help people, show them they matter. Keanu smiled. You already do. She looked at him and laughed, that kind of deep laugh that made people turn their heads. You always say that. You're biased. Biased? He grinned. Maybe. But I'm not wrong. They stopped outside the local cinema. Promise me something, she said. Anything. When you get famous, and you will, don't forget this, don't forget me. He looked her dead in the eye, serious as stone. I won't. Ever. She nodded, satisfied. He meant it. He meant it with everything in his being. Back to present. Motel, Los Angeles. The door creaked open. Mary stepped out, squinting at the sun. She wore a clean t-shirt and jeans that didn't fit, borrowed from the motel's lost and found. Her hair was brushed now, pulled back with an elastic. She looked like someone halfway between survival and surrender. Keanu stepped out of the car. Morning, he said. She nodded, shy. I almost didn't come out. I know, he said, not pushing. They got into the car in silence. The drive. I haven't been in a car with a heater in years, she murmured. Keanu glanced at her, heart aching. Anywhere you want to go today? She hesitated. Somewhere quiet, maybe a park? He nodded. They drove to Griffith Park, parked near a shaded grove and sat on a bench. Birds chirped, kids laughed in the distance. For a moment, they could have been any two old friends catching up. The truth unfolds. Mary sipped from her bottle of water. Her hand still trembled slightly. I've had this mask on for so long, she said. Living on the street, you don't get to have feelings. You just survive. Keanu listened, she continued slowly. When Lily died, I stopped being a person. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to breathe. I just drifted. Lily was your daughter? He asked gently. She nodded. She was perfect. She loved sunflowers and bedtime stories. I couldn't afford a doctor when she got sick. By the time I took her to the ER, it was too late. She blinked, fighting tears. And the worst part? I didn't cry. Not at first. I just went numb. Keanu sat beside her in silence, then reached into his jacket. He pulled out something small, a gold locket. Do you remember this? He asked. Mary's breath caught. The locket had been hers, a gift from her grandmother. She had given it to Keanu the day he left for LA, asking him to keep it safe. You kept it? I wore it under my shirt during every audition, every callback, every premiere. She looked at it, fingers trembling. I thought everything about me was gone, she whispered. It's not, he said. You're still here. A moment of light. They sat there for hours just talking. She told him about Toronto, about the broken system that never caught her, about sleeping in subways and being invisible. He told her about fame, about the isolation that came with being everyone's fantasy but no one's reality. Sometimes I wonder if any of it matters, he said. The movies, the interviews, the money. It does, she said. You gave people hope. You gave me hope when I was 16. He looked at her, startled. That summer, she said, when my mom left and my dad drank himself to sleep, every night you were the only light I had. You used to sit with me on the porch and read scripts, remember? He nodded. You told me I was the strongest person you knew. I've held on to that for decades, even when I hated myself. Keanu's throat tightened. You are strong. You're here. New beginnings. He offered her a choice, a temporary place to stay, no pressure, no judgment. A friend of his ran a center for women in recovery, quiet, safe, with medical help. I don't want to be your charity, she said. You're not, he said. You're my Mary. She smiled for the first time. Really smiled. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Narrative. Begins. The night was quiet in West Hollywood, the kind of deep velvet silence that seemed to swallow every sound. In a modest women's recovery center tucked away behind blooming jasmine hedges, Mary Ellis lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wide awake. The room was small but warm. Fresh sheets, a soft lamp, a safe place. Yet sleep refused her. It had been so long since she felt safe that now the silence made her feel exposed. Her mind kept spinning, not with fear, though fear was there, but with disbelief. Keanu Reeves, the boy she once loved, now a man the world adored, had come back for her, and he still saw her. 3 weeks earlier, downtown, Los Angeles. Mary had been sleeping in the back of an abandoned bookstore when the storm came. A real Los Angeles downpour, the kind people joked never happened. Water poured through the broken ceiling, soaking her blankets, her meager food supply, and the tattered photograph she kept wrapped in plastic. It was the only picture she had of Lily. She remembered curling around it that night, soaked to the bone, whispering, I'm sorry and I'm so sorry. The next morning she'd wandered aimlessly, dripping wet, hoping the rain would hide her tears. And that's when she saw him. Not the man, the billboard. Keanu's face, larger than life, advertising another movie. She had laughed out loud, bitter and broken. You're everywhere, huh? But something shifted in her chest. She remembered his voice, his stories, his ridiculous optimism. And in a moment of desperate madness or divine hope, she decided to find him, not for help, just to see if he remembered. Back to the present, the center's routine was structured. morning meditation, group therapy, shared chores, and meals. Mary, though guarded, participated. She didn't talk much at first, but she listened, really listened. Women shared stories of addiction, abuse, abandonment, and recovery. And every single one of them had survived. Just like her. The counselor Teresa was a kind-eyed woman in her 50s with a no-nonsense tone and a heart the size of California. "You can't heal what you won't name," Teresa often said. Mary knew she had a lot to name. A visit from the past. A week later, Keanu came to visit. He sat across from Mary in the courtyard, dressed simply. No sunglasses, no entourage, just a hoodie and jeans. The other women tried to act casual, but giggles and whispers filled the air like music. "You're a celebrity now," Mary teased. He smiled. "You always said I'd be. I also said I'd open a shelter. And now I'm in one," she said, trying to joke. He didn't laugh. "Hey," he said gently. "You're here, that's enough." She looked away. "Not yet, Keanu, I've got ghosts." "You don't have to face them alone." She didn't respond. "Not yet." Group therapy. It was week 3 when Mary finally spoke up during group. "My name is Mary. I've been clean for 8 months. I was a mother. I was in love once. I lost them both." The room was silent. "I used to believe I didn't deserve to be saved," she said, voice trembling. "Now I'm trying to believe I deserve to be seen." After group, Teresa hugged her tightly. "You just set yourself free." A walk with Keanu one Sunday. Mary and Keanu walked the hiking trail behind the center. It was quiet, shaded with eucalyptus trees. She walked slower now, physically weaker, emotionally cautious, but beside him she felt lighter. "Do you ever miss who we were?" she asked. "All the time," he replied. "But I like who we're becoming more." She paused, then asked the question that had haunted her for years. "Why didn't you look for me?" He stopped walking. "I did. For years. I asked people, in Toronto. Checked shelters. After you vanished, I thought maybe you didn't want to be found." She nodded. "I didn't. Not then. And now?" She looked at him. "Now, I'm not sure what I want, but I'm tired of hiding." He took her hand. Not romantically, just there, like an anchor, like he always had been. Facing the mirror, Mary started journaling. Every morning she wrote letters to Lily. In them she confessed her regrets, her shame, her love. She wrote about the rainstorm, about the dreams she had as a girl, about Keanu. And slowly, the words began to transform from pain into purpose. She started helping new arrivals at the center. She remembered names, gave hugs, listened like someone who truly understood. One day, Teresa pulled her aside. "You're a lighthouse now, Mary." Mary blinked. "A what?" "A lighthouse. You've been through the storm. Now you're helping others find the shore." The offer after group one day, Keanu handed her an envelope. She opened it slowly. Inside were documents, funding approval, non-profit forms, and a location listing. "What is this?" she asked. "A start," he said. "If you still want to open that shelter." She stared at him, stunned. "I don't want to do it for you," he added. "I want to do it with you." Tears filled her eyes. "You still believe in me?" "Always," he said. A letter to Lily, excerpt. "Dear Lily, today I looked in the mirror and didn't see a ghost. I saw your mother, not perfect, not whole, but healing. I found someone from my past who reminded me I still have a future. I hope that wherever you are, you know how much I love you. And maybe soon, I'll be helping other women get off the streets too, just like someone helped me. Maybe this pain wasn't wasted." Love, Mom. Ending scene as night fell over Los Angeles. Mary stood on the roof of the center looking out at the lights below. The city was still cruel, still loud, still lonely. But it no longer scared her. She turned and saw Keanu leaning against the doorway, 2 cups of tea in his hands. "I can't promise I won't fall again," she said. "I'll be here if you do," he replied. She took the cup, raised it in mock salute. To second chances, he clinked his cup against hers. To everything after, narrative begins. The city's heartbeat pulsed steadily beneath the fading twilight as Mary and Keanu stood outside the small building they had secured to transform into a shelter. The faded brick facade, weathered and chipped, reflected years of neglect. The windows were clouded with dust and grime, but to Mary it looked like a palace. Her heart pounded with a strange mixture of hope, fear, and determination. This was her chance, not just to reclaim her life but to save others from the spiral she had once been trapped in. The dream begins. The paperwork was finalized only days ago. The funds that Keanu had quietly gathered through contacts and silent donations were now hers to manage. "You ready to turn this wreck into a refuge?" Keanu asked, brushing his hands on his jeans. Mary's hands trembled slightly as she pushed open the door, the hinges creaking loudly in the silent evening air. "This is more than a shelter," Mary said softly. "It's a second chance. For them. And for me." The air inside was thick with dust and a faint smell of mildew. The floorboards creaked underfoot, and cobwebs draped the corners like forgotten memories. But Mary wasn't deterred. She ran her fingers along the wall, imagining the women who would one day sleep safely here. The team Mary knew she couldn't do this alone. The first call was to Teresa, her counselor. Teresa didn't hesitate to say yes. Then came other women from the center who had begun to trust Mary. Some were still fragile, still battling their demons, but all had a fierce will to survive. A former carpenter named Tanya volunteered to help with renovations, and a young social worker named Marcus offered to handle outreach and administrative tasks. Keanu, despite his fame, insisted on staying in the background, funding quietly but never overshadowing the team's work. Renovations. And reality's renovations began the next morning. The old building was a beast to tame. Plumbing was broken, wiring outdated, and the roof leaked like a sieve. Every day Mary felt the weight of responsibility, contracts to review, volunteers to schedule, and the haunting question of whether this dream could survive reality. One afternoon, while scraping peeling paint in the main hall, Mary's hands began to shake. Overwhelmed, she sat down hard on the floor and buried her face in her hands. Tanya sat beside her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You're doing the impossible," Tanya said quietly. "And that's why you have to keep going." Mary looked up, tears streaking her dusty face. "What if it's not enough?" "It will be," Tanya replied firmly, "because it comes from you." Flashback. Mary's first night on the street as Mary worked. Memories flooded back. Her first night homeless, cold, hungry, and utterly alone. The cruel indifference of passers-by. The sharp bite of winter air on her skin. She recalled clutching her daughter's picture, whispering promises she didn't know how to keep. That night had felt endless. But now, with every stroke of paint and every repaired window, she was building a lifeline for women like her. Community challenges. Not everyone welcomed the new shelter warmly. Some neighbors complained about bringing trouble to the block. Local businesses worried about their clientele. Mary and Keanu attended community meetings, facing skeptical faces and whispered doubts. Keanu's calm presence helped. "I know we all want a safer community," he said. "Helping vulnerable women find shelter is part of that safety." Slowly, the tide began to turn. One elderly woman, Mrs. Henderson, brought homemade cookies to a meeting and said, "I was once lost too. This place will save lives." Mary felt tears prick her eyes. First residents. The day the first women arrived was surreal. Mary had prepared a small welcome kit. Clean clothes, toiletries, a journal, and a list of resources. The women came from different backgrounds, young and old, from broken homes and tough streets, but all shared a quiet desperation for safety. One woman, Jasmine, clutched Mary's hand tightly. "Thank you. I never thought someone would care." Mary smiled through her own trembling. "We care, and you're not alone." Keanu's visits became more frequent, but still understated. He helped with logistics, spoke to donors, and quietly encouraged the staff. One evening, as the shelter bustled with activity, Keanu and Mary shared a rare moment alone on the roof. Seeing this place come alive. "It's like watching a dream breathe," Keanu said, gazing at the twinkling city below. Mary leaned into him. "It's more than a dream now. It's hope." The pain and progress. Despite the progress, the journey was far from easy. Some residents relapsed. Fights broke out. Funding worries loomed. Mary faced moments of crushing doubt. Late one night, she stood in the main hall, surrounded by sleeping women, and whispered, "Please let me be enough." In those dark moments, she remembered Lily's face, the reason she fought. The power of story. Mary began hosting storytelling circles. Women shared their journeys, their pain, their triumphs. One woman, Elena, told how she had escaped human trafficking. Another, Clara, spoke of her battle with addiction and the love she found in recovery. These stories knit the women together into a community. Mary saw the power of empathy, the way shared pain could become shared strength. A new beginning. Months passed. The shelter grew stronger. Neighbors began volunteering. Local schools donated supplies. Small businesses offered jobs to residents. Mary's vision was unfolding in ways she had only dared to imagine. And through it all, Keanu stayed by her side, not as a celebrity but as a friend, a supporter, and a witness to the resilience of the human spirit. Narrative begins. The shelter buzzed with energy, a sanctuary alive with hope and determination. But as the walls held, more stories. The weight of those stories began to press harder on Mary's heart. Every victory came with its shadows. Every smile hid a secret pain. The road to healing was never straight. It twisted, turned, and sometimes plunged into darkness. A crisis unfolds. One evening, just as the sun dipped behind the skyscrapers, a heated argument erupted in the common room. Two residents, Sarah and Mia, had clashed over a minor misunderstanding that spiraled quickly. Voices raised, old wounds bled anew, and Mary rushed in, heart pounding. "I'm tired of hiding here like a prisoner," Sarah shouted, tears streaming. "I'm not safe. Not really." Mary stepped forward, voice calm but firm. "This is a place to heal, not to hurt each other." But the damage was done. Sarah stormed out into the night, slamming the door behind her. The fear of losing control. Mary sat at her desk long after everyone had gone to bed, the weight of the evening pressing on her. Was she really prepared to handle this? To face the storms her residents carried inside? Keanu stopped by quietly, sensing her exhaustion. "Shelters aren't perfect," he said softly. "They're places where imperfect people come to be made whole." Mary nodded, but the doubt lingered. Outreach and obstacles outside the shelter, the world still looked the same. The city's indifferent glances, the cold nights, the unforgiving streets. Mary and Marcus ramped up outreach efforts, visiting parks and streets where women still struggled. One night, they found Jasmine curled in a doorway, shivering. "Why'd you come back?" Mary asked gently. "I couldn't stay away," Jasmine whispered, "but I'm scared I'll fail again." Mary sat beside her, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. Failure isn't falling down, it's refusing to get up. Keanu's silent support. Keanu continued to work behind the scenes, negotiating with donors, arranging supplies, and offering quiet encouragement. One afternoon, Mary received a call about a funding shortfall. The grant they depended on had been delayed. Panic rose in her chest. Keanu reassured her, "We'll find a way. We always do." The power of community facing challenges. Mary turned to the very community that had once doubted them. She organized a fundraising event, a small concert featuring local artists, volunteers, and residents sharing their stories. The turnout surprised everyone. Neighbors who had once opposed the shelter brought food and clothes. Children from nearby schools sold handmade crafts. The energy was electric. Mary saw firsthand how vulnerability could unite, how openness could transform fear into empathy, breakthroughs and setbacks. The shelter wasn't just a building, it was a battleground. Several residents relapsed, some left, others found jobs and moved on. One evening, Mary received a call that Jasmine had been hospitalized after an overdose. The news hit her hard. She visited Jasmine in the hospital, holding her hand. "You're stronger than this," Mary whispered. Jasmine's eyes fluttered open and she gave a faint smile, a surprise visitor on. Rainy afternoon, the shelter door opened unexpectedly. In stepped Lily, Mary's daughter. Her hair was longer, her eyes wary but curious. Mary's breath caught. "Mom?" Lily asked, voice trembling. Mary rushed forward, tears streaming. They embraced, years of pain and silence melting away in a single moment. Reconciling the past. Lily's arrival brought both joy and turmoil. She had lived in foster homes, struggling to find stability. Now she wanted to rebuild their relationship, but trust was fragile. Mary and Lily attended counseling together, navigating memories and misunderstandings. Keanu supported them quietly, offering a steady presence. Building new bridges, the shelter became more than a refuge. It became a family. Residents shared meals, celebrated birthdays, and supported each other through tears and triumphs. Mary realized healing was as much about connection as it was about survival. One evening, as laughter echoed through the halls, she whispered to Keanu, "This is the life I dreamed of." Keanu smiled. "And it's just the beginning." Narrative begins. Dawn crept over the city skyline, the soft glow washing away the darkness of night. But for Mary and the women at the shelter, the coming day promised not just light but transformation. Breaking dawn wasn't just about the sun rising. It was about rising above pain, past mistakes, and the crushing weight of uncertainty. A turning point. Months had passed since Lily's return. Slowly, a fragile peace had settled over the shelter. Residents were finding work, returning to school, and some even beginning to dream again. But then came the news that threatened to unravel everything. A large developer had eyes on the block where the shelter stood, intending to demolish the building for a new commercial complex. Mary's heart sank as she read the notice taped to the front door. "The fight begins." The community rallied immediately. Mary, Keanu, and Marcus organized meetings with local officials, neighbors, and business owners. They spoke passionately about the shelter's importance, the lives it saved, and the hope it gave. But the developer was powerful, with deep pockets and political connections. The battle wasn't just for a building, it was for the future of the women who called it home. Residents rise inspired by Mary's determination. The shelter residents stepped forward. Jasmine, now in recovery, spoke at a city council hearing, her voice shaking but strong. "Eliminating this shelter means eliminating hope for many like me," she said. Elena, the trafficking survivor, organized petitions. Even younger residents like Maya and Rosa helped with social media campaigns. The power of their stories began to shift public opinion. Keanu steps up. Keanu's role expanded beyond funding. He used his voice and influence to bring national attention to the cause. Interviews, social media, posts, and public appearances helped spotlight the shelter's mission. A fundraising gala he hosted raised significant money to support legal fees and renovations. The media began to tell their story, not just of struggle, but of resilience and triumph. The legal battle. Months of legal wrangling followed. The developer tried to dismiss the case, claiming the building was unsafe, but independent inspections paid for by the shelter's fund proved otherwise. Mary, Keanu, and their lawyer, Maria, worked tirelessly, preparing for hearings and gathering community support. Breaking dawn in the hearts amid the struggle, Mary found moments of profound connection. She and Lily attended workshops together, rebuilding their bond. Lily, once guarded and distant, blossomed into a strong advocate for the shelter. Mary watched her daughter grow with pride, realizing that healing was not just survival, it was transformation. A surprise offer one day, an unexpected visitor arrived. It was a former shelter resident named Carla, now a successful entrepreneur. She had read about the legal battle and wanted to help. Carla donated a significant sum to create a fund dedicated to long-term stability and growth. Her words touched Mary deeply. "You gave me a chance when no one else would. Now it's my turn to give back." Hope takes root. The combined efforts of the community, residents, and supporters began to bear fruit. The city council voted to designate the shelter as a protected community resource. Plans for demolition were halted, at least temporarily. More volunteers arrived, eager to help renovate and expand services. Personal trials, not all was easy. Jasmine faced a relapse scare, but Mary and the team intervened swiftly. Lily struggled with school but found strength in the shelter's growing family. Mary's own health faltered under the stress, reminding her of her limits. Keanu reminded her gently, "You don't have to carry it all alone." A new beginning, one crisp morning, the shelter held an event to celebrate their progress. Neighbors, supporters, and residents gathered under colorful banners. Music played, children laughed, and Mary gave a heartfelt speech. "This shelter is more than walls and beds," she said. "It's proof that even in darkness dawn breaks, that every new day is a chance to rebuild." Narrative begins. The morning air was crisp, filled with the promise of change. The shelter stood tall, not just as a building, but as a beacon of hope, resilience, and community. The long battle was nearing its end, but the real journey of healing, rebuilding, and rising was just beginning. Victory and vulnerability. After months of struggle, the city council's decision came through. The shelter would remain. It was officially recognized as an essential community resource protected by law. Cheers erupted within the walls. Tears flowed freely, but beneath the joy was the quiet recognition that the fight wasn't just legal, it was deeply personal. Mary, Keanu, and the women shared a moment of reflection. "This victory isn't the end," Mary said softly. "It's the beginning of everything we've dreamed of. The power of shared stories to celebrate." The shelter hosted an open house inviting neighbors, city officials, donors, and volunteers. Stories flowed of struggle, pain, courage, and triumph. Jasmine shared her journey from addiction to recovery. Elena spoke of reclaiming her life after trafficking. Even Lily, once shy and uncertain, stood before the crowd, sharing her hopes for the future. Keanu's deep connection. Keanu's presence was more than symbolic. Behind the cameras and spotlights, he worked tirelessly, mentoring residents, helping with job applications, and simply listening. One afternoon, he sat with Lily under a tree in the courtyard. "I see so much strength in you," he told her. "Remember, your past doesn't define your future." Lily smiled, her eyes shining with newfound confidence. Rebuilding lives. The shelter expanded its services. Job training programs were introduced. Therapy and counseling became regular offerings. Mary watched as women who had once been broken began to find purpose and independence. New challenges. But the path was never smooth. Funding remained precarious. Some residents struggled with setbacks. Mary's health continued to demand attention. Still, the community stood firm, holding one another up. A personal reckoning. One evening, Mary found herself alone in the quiet of the shelter. She pulled out an old photo, her and Keanu from decades ago. Memories of first love, lost time, and second chances washed over her. Keanu entered quietly, sensing her solitude. They talked long into the night, sharing fears, hopes, and dreams. The bond between them, rooted in past and present, grew deeper. Lily's journey. Lily's transformation was a testament to the shelter's power. From a frightened, lost girl, she blossomed into a leader, organizing youth programs, advocating for homeless teens, and inspiring others. Mary's heart swelled with pride. Community and family. The shelter wasn't just a refuge anymore. It was a family. Residents supported each other through struggles and celebrations. Birthdays were celebrated with homemade cakes. Successes were shouted from rooftops. Failures were met with compassion and encouragement. Keanu's legacy, Keanu's role evolved from visitor to integral member of the shelter's story. His dedication was unwavering. He continued to use his platform to raise awareness and support, but more importantly, he embodied empathy, kindness, and the power of human connection. The future awaits 1 year later. The shelter stood renewed and stronger. A new wing was added, offering safe spaces for mothers and children. Community gardens flourished, tended by residents and neighbors alike. Mary, Lily, Keanu, and the women gathered beneath the blooming trees. Hope was no longer just a word. It was their reality. Final scene as the sun set. Painting the sky with hues of pink and gold, Mary looked around at the faces she loved, women who had transformed pain into power. She squeezed Keanu's hand, feeling the strength between them. "We rose," she whispered. Keanu smiled. "Together."